Good day, Bear fans, and welcome Coyote fans. I have a working hydraulic clutch set up for my BarraStang. How did that happen? Tune in and find out. Well, I got a new part from Tilton that's going to mount to that surface there and allow my hydraulic throwout bearing to be lower in the transmission casing, which will also mean that I will have enough clearance. Tilton instructions for installing the clutch are really clear. You measure basically from the faceplate here to this surface here, which I was able to do pretty straightforward and determined to be right around 2 inches. And unfortunately, my prior mount for this hydraulic throwout bearing made it almost 2 inches, and I really need an 1/8 inch more clearance, and I think this is going to give me like another 1/4 of an inch. In any case, I'll be able to get my distance correct here, so I need to install that new clutch, or rather that new throwout bearing, and get moving here, because all my wiring's done for my transmission, and it just would be nice to get the transmission back on the engine and go from there. So let's start by mounting this piece here, which is pretty straightforward. There's just a couple of bolts that hold it here, and then I got to check distances and Alright, I got just one bolt in for the moment, because in order to get the other one in, it's not obvious here, but if I put the stake in this thing where it should be, let's do that. Apologies for the rough video here, folks. Okay, this is what keeps this from rotating too much. Okay, if I put that in where it belongs, it may not be obvious, but I can't really get to the mounting hole. Let's have a little light here. I can, but it's directly in line with this, and it's not something I can easily tighten. Plus, I don't know if the head clears. I don't have to try it. I'm gonna have to pull this out here, turn it, mount it, see if I can still get the stake in. This is the keeper that keeps the throwout bearing from rolling while you so there we go. We can turn it and get this in. Let's put it in. Tighten it a little bit. Come back later and put my thread lock on. Is what I should have done. I shouldn't have been so optimistic when I did this. There we go. Not really tight. It's there. And you can see it. It doesn't. I've got an interference in the housing, and it's a minor interference too. Like, we're talking 1/8 of an inch over that bolt. And actually, I need to do some measuring here and see how much lower it brought me. If I can adjust this thing outward above the head mounts, and still have my 2 1/8 inch from my tangs, then I'm good. Well, the new base that was given me by Tilton gives me just enough space for an adjustment here. First try mounting this thing at its lowest point possible gives me 1.75, and I need 1.8 something or other. I can't remember. I think I'm 3/32 of an inch too low. So I can adjust that upwards by rotating it on the mount there and get my desired dimension, which again is, you know, you need 1/8 of an inch from the top of the surface to the engagement point on the springs for the first mount here. So as soon as I've got that achieved, I'll put my red thread lock on my keeper bolt there, and we'll go to the next step, which is to mount the bell housing back on the transmission and mount the transmission to the car, hopefully for the last time, or to the engine rather. Taking this slow, and those of you who bought one of these transmissions, or rather hydraulic clutch setup, especially the Tilton one, which to me is the best one I've ever seen. I've got some of the American powertrain. Note, don't do business with American powertrain in my parts that we tried to make work on my TR 6060 8 years ago. So here we are again, but this time, wow, what a difference. So let's get that new part adjusted right there, and we'll. Alright, it's a little difficult to do this with one camera hand, but I'm going to give it a shot. Bear in mind, this is going to use some dial calipers here in a second and validate my work. But here we go. Looks like we're at 2 inches minus a 16th. 2 inches minus a 16th. It's kind of a nice, that works out. I'm going to get some calipers here and validate this, but that's my dimension. This is about 2 1/16 inches from this face here, which I mounted the bell housing to this engine and measured from the face of the bell housing to these tangs to get the 2 1/16 of an inch. So that means I've got to be 1/16 of an inch shy. 2/16 is of course 1/8, which is my delta. So that's dimension. This is dimension A on their documentation from the bell housing face here. Let's get this right. Here to here. I could put the transmission together a little bit more and show you. Let's do. Alright, so put the bell housing on. There's only a couple of bolts tightened down, just enough to hold it in place. And here's my dimension A, which is just a smidge over 2 1/16 of an inch. You can see it there. So 2 1/16 means I've got a minus 1/8 of an inch off of that. This leaves me 1/16 of an inch off of this dimension here. And just to be sure, I'm not going to trust this crappy tape measure for either of these dimensions. I'm going to go grab a dial caliper I've got, which is going to look like something out of the 1800s. Probably it was at one time, but it's been in the family for years. And I can loosen it, move it, it's still good. And I can get this dimension close, if not exact. And I'll check that. I can't do it two-handed, but I'll measure that a lot more carefully. Alright, so I think we're close. I just need to put red sealant on that pin after I've double checked and triple checked my dimensions here, and assemble my transmission onto this bell housing, which will be really interesting since I'm. Alright, well, my measurement skills aren't 100% kosher, but this is about dead nuts. You can see it. And so is this. Okay, that's evening out there. Yeah, not perfect, but darn close. And then you can kind of visualize 1/8 of an inch here with the dimension there, okay? I haven't moved this at all. That's the interesting thing to me is that's like 1.875. It's like 1 7/8, and that's 2 inches whenever I do it with the calipers. So, yeah. Good news is I got my 1/8 of an inch play and a pretty straightforward way of measuring it. I think we're good. It's been a long day for me because of work, not because of the car. And this is my hobby, so. Heck of a hobby. Anyways, I'm gonna dry out my thread lock if I don't get that cap on that. I'm gonna call it a night. Let's sew this thing up tomorrow and get her done. So, long and short of it is, there's great documentation for this stuff. You just got to dig for it, and not for the Tilton stuff. I'm just talking overall. There's just so much that is just so out of my normal league in depth in all directions here, and I'm really cruising toward a first start here. Hopefully the rest of this video will be a lot more chipper because I've got to assemble the transmission, bell housing, starter, all that fun stuff. I'm all set to go there. I've done a starter test, so let me hope to get the transmission on there, and that'll be my part 5. And then there's a part 6 that will involve clutch pedal calibration, which that should be interesting. Anyways. Alright, used my red thread lock on all of these actually. This is tightened down with red thread lock. These guys. Just did my bell housing bolts except for the top 2. Did my starter, which is ready to hook up. And I also put these out. This is my bleeder line here, and this is my feed line here. So I now need to I'm going to zip tie these guys down back here, and then I can manipulate the transmission onto the motor. So hopefully that'll go smoothly. Let's find out. Alright, so take 2. This is the transmission mounted to the engine with just 2 bolts, mounted to the bell housing. If you watch the high-speed video, I ran into I'm just not a weightlifter, so I had, and this is a heavy transmission. When I added this to my Mustang GT, or a similar transmission, a T56, I believe it was a 75-pound penalty that I caught doing it. It's not light, and I am not a bodybuilder, so I had a bit of fun trying to get the thing in place. I was able to easily get it to within about 1/2 of an inch, and then from there I just took 2 bolts and carefully using a wrench and going side to side, tighten them down to get the thing to slide into place. And they're on opposite sides of the bell housing there. You can see one here and one there. I'm pointing to it, I guess, on video. And it slid in, other than the one dowel pin on this side didn't want to go in. It was close, I could see it. And I used an adjustment tool that my grandson picked out a long time ago to carefully smack it a little bit, I think vertically downward, to get it to snap into place. And I could just see it visually, because it's where it needs to be. I need to put the other bell housing bolts in, and then we'll be ready to do the clutch adjustment. Or rather, I have to mount temporarily to figure out a couple things, how to mount the pedal box temporarily to the side of the transmission here. I want to do that so I can actually bleed and set the adjustment on the clutch master cylinder, although I may skip that and do it after I do the first start, because I just am out of time to get this done. I really want to get the first start out of the way. So many things key off of it. So for now, this may be where we sit until we get to a point where there's we can put fluid in the transmission, and not transmission, in the hydraulic throwout bearing, and get it set up. So wow. Anyways, that's how I did it. I was doing it single-handedly, and it's very difficult given the heaviness of that transmission. And trying to put this thing in from under the car, I can only imagine, even if you have a lift, what a pain in the butt. You probably have to have a transmission jack and a whole bunch of professional tools. I used a floor jack and the thing I'm sitting on for the back of the transmission, and it worked. So there's that. Anyways, hope you're enjoying the ride. Alright, try not to laugh too hard. This is my temporary clutch pedal mount. In order to set the stop for the clutch action here, okay, I need this would normally be mounted in the car, etc., etc. I get that, okay. I don't have my quarter MPT run yet. I need this guy hooked up here, and I've got a bleeder line that goes in here. Let's go over the items that we've got here. Normally there would be a remote mount for this Willwood, and it's going to sit somewhere up here. I'll make a mount off this motor. Possibly use this piece of steel that's running my wiring harness, because this thing is not massive, and it would sit pretty nicely on the motor, and then I could just run it into the firewall, etc. Anyways, it's two pieces. It's really simple. One part that mounts supposedly to the firewall, and that might be where it goes. Picture it like that, this guy hanging out off of it. Then there's a tube here, and then this part mounts onto the clutch master cylinder. Use a little piece of tube. It's not under high pressure, it's just feeding this, okay? So DOT3 is what we're going to use. Let's see if the Willwood thing says that on it. Use DOT3. Thankfully, that's the same thing that the folks at Tilton want me to use. So I reached back in my pile of stuff. This is some of the usable American powertrain stuff that I got. So I need basically some Teflon tape from here to hook that up. I'll put these guys back for now. This is my bleeder, alright? It's pretty straightforward. It's the Tilton bleeder. These are both AN4 NPT on the back of the clutch master cylinder. Now, doing duty here, I've got a clamp holding the pedal box that would normally be mounted inside the new edge down to the top of my wonderful floor jack, 3-ton. Nice, huh? And then I've got one that holds it this way. And then to keep it from rolling whenever I press the clutch, I don't know if you can see it, but I've just got a plain old clamp holding the thing down there. Hopefully once this thing's under pressure, and I can press on it with my foot, I need to be able to press on it with my foot and turn the input shaft of the transmission, because I need to find the disengagement point. Initially, I'm just going to need to bleed the master cylinder. And I'm going to capture that on video as well. So I'm going to do that and bleed the master cylinder, and then man, is this going to be messy, because I'm going to have DOT3 brake fluid running everywhere. Anyways, I'm going to bleed the clutch master cylinder and get it to where it's pressurized and has, you know, fluid in it. And then from there, we're going to try our damnedest to find the clutch disengagement point. And once I've got that, my next thing will be to find a way to create a bump stop here. And I'm likely just going to weld an elbow onto this right here, and just take advantage of the fact that I know steel and that the sparks aren't going to set anything on fire, I hope. Yeah, and just basically create something for this to bump up against that will have an adjustment screw in it. My thoughts are use my foot to find the disengagement point and hold it right about there where it's just disengaging, and take a picture with my phone and build my, based on where I see this clutch pedal going to. Am I hitting something? Yeah, I am. Isn't that wonderful? I'm not even going all the way. I've got to... I think I can just take advantage of the fact that I'm on a jack. I'm gonna raise it up some. Let's see if I can get past. There we are. See, it's not nothing to panic about. Roll this thing back. Push it that way. Oh boy. Oh, of course. Okay. Anyhow, some assembly required here. We're going to put these pieces together. I'll get that on time lapse so you can watch me assemble this Frankenstein of a thing. And then once we have that assembly going, I'll actually set this camera up to record the clutch disengagement procedure. I need to basically assemble this and do a bleed, and then from there I've got my next steps. Alright, so let's get started doing some. Alright, so they're pretty clear about in the directions, picking the right master cylinder. I just happen to have a 3/4 inch bore master cylinder with the right stroke. Let's look at the hydraulic lines. They're very clear. Attach the supply line for the master cylinder using your choice of rigid or flexible line. If using a Tilton master cylinder, which has AN3 outlets, you'll need an AN3 to AN4. Attach the supplied bleeder adapter and bleed fittings to the bleed line. So they're very clear. Fill the master cylinder reservoir with DOT3 or 4. Don't use 5. And you need, somewhere in here it tells you, let's see if I can find it. Okay. It's important that whichever line is at the bottom is used as a supply line connected to the master cylinder, and whichever line is on top is used as the bleeder. So you do the attachment and then you bleed it. So you fill the master cylinder with DOT3, apply a light force on the clutch pedal. You need to have the bleeding bleeder seal open and push through. Open the bleed screws, attach the bleed line, completely stroke the pedal, hold the pedal down, close the bleed screw, the attached bleed screw line on the hydraulic release bearing. It's very similar to bleeding breaks. In other words, let the paddle return to its relaxed position and wait a few seconds. Repeat steps 2 through 6 until all air is removed from the system. That went very quickly for me because, as you're going to see, I have like lines that are like 6 inches long right now. All right, so that's how to do the bleeding. Let's go do the bleeding. even though I told myself. Good. This is good. Just loose. Alright, that was surprisingly easy to bleed. We have positive clutch engagement, I believe. It'd be nice if I could easily Alright, clutch pedal stop. These are the instructions for that. You must use a pedal stop to limit the amount of bearing travel. Failure to do this will result in clutch, bearing, and or transmission damage. Lift the drive wheels off the ground. Well, we don't have any drive wheels right now. With the engine off, put the transmission into first gear and have someone attempt to rotate the drive wheels. Depress the clutch pedal slowly until the clutch disengages and the drive wheel can be rotated. Do not push it any further. Note the clutch pedal position at this point and adjust the pedal stop bolt to allow an additional 1/4 inch of pedal travel, and I assume that's at the bottom of the pedal. Alright, so we're going to have to do this, but I've only got one person and I don't have any wheels. So, alright, continuing the Rube Goldberg theme that we've got going here, I've got a strap here rigged to the clutch pedal, which will let me, I'm still not disengaged, but I can just tighten that strap and it'll keep pulling on the clutch pedal until it's all the way down to the point where I'm disengaged. Then I can get a picture of that and make a stop. Yay! Alright, let's see if this works. I got it in first gear, as the instructions say, from Tilton. They don't say anything about screwing around with your wonky looking shifter mechanism, but we'll just cut some slack there. Alright. Can I turn it? No. Quite a non-scientific way to approach this, I'm sure. Unfortunately, there's some really suboptimal things about this arrangement that I don't care for. One of them being that, of course, my strap was almost near full when I did this, and I really need to readjust the strap where it's giving me a little more. I'm about halfway depressed on the pedal right now, and I'm not disengaged. I can see if I can go a little further, but I don't see it happening. I'm gonna have to readjust the strap. Let's shut that off and fix that. All right, I think this time we got it. Let's find out. Get my plunger going down my clutch master cylinder. It's definitely getting harder to turn. Oh, hey, we have a disengagement point. Let's find out where that is. Oh, God. Is there? Not there yet. Close. Alright, so let me get the camera on the clutch pedal a little bit better. Hang with me, okay? Oh, I hate this stand with a passion. Here we go. So you can see what's going on here, tubes. Alright, here's our clutch. Oh, sorry about that, tubes. You still there?
I think so. Okay. Let's get a good look at that. Okay. Oops. Almost there. I'm wiggling the... You can hear it. Can't move the transmission at all right now. I'm in first gear. Clutch is engaged. But if I just go a little bit deeper here, I'm able to turn. Okay? The master cylinder is activating the hydraulic throwout bearing, and I'm able to turn. And you can see where I'm at here. And what I really need to do is I need to construct now that I know roughly where this is going to be. I'm going to give myself probably a ½ inch of adjustment, maybe more, of bolts that will contact my Willwood clutch arm. But you can even hear it like a little bit more. I suspect I'm going to be fully disengaged, and I am. Okay, so let's just let her down. Okay, I can turn a little bit, let her down a little bit more. I can't turn in without cranking the motor over. So, beautiful thing. This is how to, no, this is not how to. This is me illustrating how this all works. I have to just take a moment here, and I'm going to shut this whole thing down and then talk on the other camera so you can hear me.
Take two. All right, so let me demonstrate this clutch operation again, okay, so you can see how it works. I'm going to set you down over here while I relieve some of the pressure on this clutch. Yep. That was a little more pressure than I wanted to relieve. Hopefully I can get that. Okay. All right. Let's demonstrate how I'm setting my clutch pedal height. Can I turn? I cannot. I'm in first gear, okay? I cannot turn the drive shaft. Okay. I'm going to bring the clutch pedal down. Cannot. Cannot. Still cannot. Oh, starting to be able to turn it. Okay, you can even hear the clutch scraping. A little more, and we're probably going to turn pretty freely. And we can. So right there is the clutch disengagement point. Now what I have to do is I have to construct a stop, which I'll probably just use a piece of steel and come down here and make it so that I have about an inch of adjustment territory, but I'm going to use 3/4 of that adjustment to hold, because it says 1/4 of an inch past. That's how this all works. I didn't ever really get a firm grasp of the cable arrangement I had. I would always try and adjust the cable, and I could never seem to get my cable setup adjusted on my prior transmissions. That's 3 different transmissions: T45, T3650, T56. I'd always take it to somebody else and they would get it adjusted somewhat better, but you know, this, I have to be honest, this is the first time I've really had a setup like this where I understood all the components, and it's a beautiful thing. So that's how you adjust, in my eyes, I'm only one person in the Tilton documentation. It says, you know, you press while another guy, you know, tries to turn the drive shaft, and then you mark where this is. Well, if this were inside the car, trying to mark where that is would be a little difficult. So here I can actually construct that. I'll actually weld it right here. Not really. I'll put something in front of the componentry so none of the sparks kill anything. But straight out, I can build very easily a stop that welds up here and keeps this from going any further than that. And I can just, you know, do it while it's sitting there just like that. I'll give it about 1 inch of play, and then adjust it so it's 1/4 of an inch off of there. I'll measure it just like the documentation says. So I have 3/4 of an inch more pedal if I need it. My only concern is here. I know where that firewall is, and it's right in line with that vertical of the, and I'm pretty certain I'm hitting the floor down there. So I did allow myself some adjustment of this mechanism, and I might end up, you know, doing some stuff with that as well, just to get this thing more in line. Again, there's a remote reservoir assembly that goes with this, so this inside the car will not be there. It'll be out inside the engine bay, and there's just a little tube that runs up to that. So we've got, this is part 5 of the Tilton clutch install. I'm taking you through, you know, bolting the flywheel on, the clutch on, hydraulic throwout bearing setup, and now bleed and bump the stop thing. So I'll probably do a minor follow-up video. I've got to get this video all put together for you, but I'll do a follow-up video with that stop showing, and we'll be good. But it's going to take some time to get this all posted. I don't know how many minutes. I'm going to guess I'm up to 45 minutes of this particular one, because there is so much. But the good news is I understand all the components here, and I've got it all working the way that I would expect it to work once it's inside the car, and that just makes me so happy. A word on some of these videos, please, you know, tell your friends if they're doing any kind of car modification like this. My only hope for all of this is that it gets a wider audience than it is right now, so that there's a little bit less confusion about how to do a coyote swap or whatever. I see a lot of people struggling with each of the components and steps in this, and you know, things like this. I'm trying to go into detail so that you can actually find stuff that actually helps you get, you know, the next level. So hope some of you aren't bored to tears and they're actually soaking this up. Feel free to comment, give me some better advice about how to do stuff. I know this looks completely bonkers, but honestly, if this were bolted in the car, I wouldn't be able to see any of the mechanism here. So part of my reason for doing this is just to set up something temporary so I could actually see what's going on and actually understand, you know, all of the components. So hope that helps you understand. I'm going to count this one as a success and post this. Thanks for tuning in.